I'm Diane Riley, and I'll be reading a few books by Cynthia Rylant, who wrote Henry and Mudge, which are great books of the friendship between a boy and his dog. So this is Henry and Mudge, the first book of their adventures. And they're actually little chapter books, great for children that are just starting to read. The first chapter is called Henry. Henry had no brothers and no sisters. "I want a brother," he told his parents. "Sorry," they said. Henry had no friends on his street. "I want to live on a different street," he told his parents. "Sorry," they said. Henry had no pets at home. "I want to have a dog," he told his parents. "Sorry," they almost said. But first, they looked at their house with no brothers and no sisters. Then they looked at their street with no children. Then they looked at Henry's face. Then they looked at each other. "Okay," they said. "I want to hug you," Henry told his parents, and he did. The next chapter is Mudge. Henry searched for a dog. "Not just any dog," said Henry. "Not a short one," he said. "Not a curly one," he said. "And no pointed ears." Then he found Mudge. Mudge had floppy ears, not pointed. And Mudge had straight fur, not curly. But Mudge was short. "Because he's a puppy," Henry said. "He'll grow." And did he ever? He grew out of his puppy cage. He grew out of his dog cage. He grew out of 7 collars in a row. And then, when he finally stopped growing, he weighed 180 pounds. He stood 3 feet tall, and he drooled. "I'm glad you're not short," Henry said. And Mudge licked him, then sat on him. And the next chapter is called Henry. Henry used to walk to school alone. When he walked, he used to worry about tornadoes, ghosts, biting dogs, and bullies. He walked as fast as he could. He looked straight ahead. He never looked back. But now he walked to school with Mudge. And when he walked, he thought about vanilla ice cream, rain, rocks, and good dreams. He walked to school, but not too fast. He walked to school, and sometimes backwards. He walked to school and patted Mudge's big head, happy. Next chapter's called Mudge. Mudge loved Henry's room. He loved the dirty socks. He loved the stuffed bear. He loved the fish tank, but mostly he loved Henry's bed. Because in Henry's bed was Henry. Mudge loved to climb in with Henry. Then he loved to smell him. He smelled his lemon hair. He smelled his milky mouth. He smelled his soapy ears. And he smelled his chocolate fingers. Then he put his head by Henry's head. He looked at the fish tank. He looked at the bear. He looked at Henry. He licked him, and he fell asleep. The next chapter's called Mudge. One day, Mudge took a walk without Henry. The sun was shining. The birds were flying. The grass smelled sweet. Mudge couldn't wait for Henry, so he left. He went down one road, sniffing the bushes, then down another road, kicking up the dust. He went through a field, across a stream, and into some pine trees. And when he came out on the other side, he was lost. He couldn't smell Henry. He couldn't smell his front porch. He couldn't smell the street he lived on. Mudge looked all around and didn't see anything or anyone he knew. He whined a little without Henry. Then he lay down alone without Henry. He missed Henry's bed. Next chapter is called Henry. Henry thought Mudge would be with him always. He thought Mudge made everything safe. He thought Mudge would never go away. And when Mudge did go away, when Henry called and called, but Mudge didn't come, Henry's heart hurt, and he cried for an hour. But when he finished crying, Henry said, "Mudge loves me. He wouldn't leave. He must be lost." So Henry walked and walked, and he called and called, and he looked and looked for his dog Mudge. He walked down one road and then down another road. The sun shone on Henry as he ran through a field, calling and calling. The birds flew past as he stood beside a stream, calling and calling, and the tears fell again as he looked at the empty pine trees for his lost dog. "Mudge!" he called one last time. And Mudge woke up from his lonely sleep and then came running. And the next chapter is Henry and Mudge. Every day when Henry woke up, he saw Mudge's big head. And every day when Mudge woke up, he saw Henry's small face. They ate breakfast at the same time. They ate supper at the same time. And when Henry was at school, Mudge just lay around and waited. Mudge never went for a walk without Henry again. And Henry never worried that Mudge would leave. Because sometimes in their dreams, they saw long, silent roads, big, wide fields, deep streams, and pine trees. In those dreams, Mudge was alone, and Henry was alone. So when Mudge woke up and knew Henry was with him, he remembered the dream and stayed closer. And when Henry woke up and knew Mudge was with him, he remembered the dream and the looking and the calling and the fear, and he knew he would never lose Mudge again. So that's the end of the first book of Henry and Mudge, but I brought a second one that's Henry and Mudge and the Best Day Ever. More adventures of Henry and Mudge. The first chapter is the first day of May. On the first day of May, Henry woke up early and said to his big dog Mudge, "I'm having a birthday today." Mudge wagged his tail and rolled over and snored. "Mudge," said Henry, "wake up. I'm having a birthday today." Mudge wagged, rolled to the other side, and snored some more. "Mudge," said Henry, "birthday cake." Mudge opened one eye. "Ice cream," said Henry. Mudge opened the other eye. "And lots of crackers," said Henry. Mudge jumped up. He shook Henry's hand. Henry was having a birthday, and Mudge would be having crackers. I'd rather cake and ice cream, but the first day of May looked pretty good. Second chapter is called Colorful Morning. Balloons were all over Henry's house. Pink ones, orange ones, green ones, yellow ones. They were in the bathroom. They were in the kitchen. They were in the living room. And the porch was full of them. Dad likes balloons, Henry told Mudge. Mudge licked a yellow one and wagged. Henry's father came into the house. He was carrying a camera. Pictures, cried Henry's father. Oh no, Henry whispered to Mudge. Dad likes pictures too. Henry's father took lots of pictures. He took one of Henry. He took one of Mudge. He took one of Henry and Mudge. He took one of Henry and Mudge and Henry's mother. Then the bookcase took one of all four of them. After the pictures, Henry's mother fixed Henry's favorite breakfast, pancakes with strawberries. The family ate and ate and ate. When they were done, they had 4 very sticky red mouths. The first day of May was looking even better. The next chapter, Crackers from the Sky. Henry had invited his friends for a party. They came at 3 o'clock. At first, everyone was shy. No one knew what to do. Then Henry's mother said, "Everybody outside." In the backyard, Henry's mother and Henry's father had fixed games. There was ring toss. There was go fishing. There were potato sack races. And hanging from a tree was a big blue piñata shaped like a donkey. The winners at ring toss got decoder rings. The winners at go fishing got baby goldfish. The winners at potato sack races got bags of potato chips. Finally, it was time for the piñata. Henry's father tied a cloth over Henry's eyes. He put a stick in Henry's hand. He whispered a message in Henry's ear. Then Henry started to swing. 1, everyone shouted. 2, 3. Mudge was wagging hard. 4. On the 4th swing, the piñata cracked open. Out fell suckers and bubble gum and taffy and hundreds of little crackers. Everyone was happy, and Mudge most of all. He never knew that crackers could come from the sky. Next chapter, Best Day. After the games, Henry's parents brought out a big bowl of cherry nut ice cream and a very wide birthday cake. The cake looked like Henry's fish tank. It had blue water, colored rocks, and striped and spotted fish. Mudge sniffed and sniffed. Maybe it looked like water, but it smelled like cake. After the fish tank was eaten up, it was time to open presents. Red bows, purple paper, big cards, everything went flying in the air. Henry got a model airplane, a robot, a stuffed snow leopard, and a basketball. He also got a box of dog treats. "These must be for you," Henry told Mudge. When the party was over, everyone went home. They all had lots of taffy and bubble gum and suckers and baby fish and potato chips. They were full of cake and ice cream. Some of them were full of crackers. Henry and Henry's parents and Henry's big dog Mudge sat quietly in the backyard and closed their eyes. They listened to the birds. They rested. And each dreamed about birthday wishes on the best day of all.
Hi, welcome to Lunenburg Storytime. I'm Sharon Kimball, and today I have 2 books to share with you. The first one is about a farm throughout the year. And just as a note, I grew up right here in Lunenburg on a farm, Cherry Hill Farm, in fact. But this one is called The Year at Maple Hill Farm. It is by Alice and Martin Provenson, and they lived on Maple Hill Farm in New York. It's going to take you through the seasons of winter, spring, summer, and autumn. The Year. This is a book about farm animals and what happens during one year on a farm. The year is divided into 12 months. The months are divided into weeks, the weeks into days, the days into minutes. And on a farm, something is happening every minute. Animals don't know there is such a thing as a year, but they do know about seasons. The animals know when the cold will come, and they grow heavy overcoats. They know when it is summer, and they shed them. When it is hot, they look for shade, and in winter, they look for shelter. People have names for what they call the months of the year. We could start with any month as far as the animals are concerned, but it is usual to begin with January. January is a winter month. The ground is covered with snow. It is a cold, gray time of year, and night falls early. Cows stay in a barnyard when the ground is frozen. So do the chickens. But not many eggs are laid in January. The days are too short and dark. The horses don't mind the cold. Neither do the sheep with their heavy winter coats. All the farm animals stay close to the barn when they are fed. There is hay and grain to eat. Even the wild deer come nearer the farm, hoping to find a little salt or a windfall apple under the snow. February follows January. The forest pond is frozen solid, all but a marshy place where the spring water feeds the pond. The children are having a skating party. When they are cold, they sit by the fire and toast their toes and noses. The geese play in the icy water all winter. You'd think their bare feet would freeze, but they never do. The noisy rooks are having a circus. They toss and tumble on the trapezes of bare branches. Rooks like winter. Under the ice, in a tunnel in the frozen ground, the water rat is napping. He won't be up until spring. March is a windy month. It is still cold outside, but you can tell spring is coming. There are signs of spring in the barn. March is windy and rainy, but when the sun does shine, it shines more brightly and the days are longer. There are signs of spring everywhere. The pony has given birth to a foal. She loves him and looks after him. The milk cow has a new calf. She loves him and gives him her milk. The good gray barn cat has her litter of kittens in the hay rack. The mother ewe has 2 new lambs. The nanny goat has a new kid too. All the animal mothers are proud and protective and full of love. The robins are back and are busy building their nests. The wild duck is in the marsh marigolds. The rooster wakes everyone earlier in the morning. The geese are cranky. They must have laid an egg. The meadow mice are out looking around. The mad March hare is hurrying in all directions. The ice on the pond has melted, and there are pussy willows. The horses have found a little grass under the last patches of snow. They lie down in the pale sunshine. You don't see that often if the ground is frozen. April is a spring month. You can tell that spring is here by all the eggs. The good old brown hen has been busy sitting on eggs for 21 days. Now her baby chicks are hatching. It must be hard to pick your way out of an egg, but chicks are pretty and fluffy in no time. Eggs in the barn, in the fields, in the trees, under the eaves, everywhere. The robins are already hatching eggs in their businesslike way. This silly goose has laid an egg in the middle of nowhere. She must be crazy. This big bird is laying her egg in a little bird's nest. She must be cuckoo. This little bird is feeding her babies. She must wonder why one baby is so big. Here is a basket of colored eggs among the flowers. No one has found it yet. Dogs steal eggs when they can find them and carry them away. Perhaps dogs make nests too? May days are warm. The animals are uncomfortable with their heavy coats. Everyone gets a haircut one way or another. The woolly sheep are shorn. The black sheepdog is shorn at the same time. Not a very fancy clip. She will scarcely be recognizable without her long curls, but they will grow back in time for winter, and she will look like herself again. They will all be cooler without them. Even the chickens molt. The rooster won't be himself until he can parade his fine tail feathers again. Even though it's cool and comfortable, it must be embarrassing to lose all your clothes all at once. Cats don't need clipping. They shed their coats on other people's clothes and furniture. June is the first month of summer. The farm pond is overflowing. The pasture is green. All the animals enjoy new green grass. Horses eat grass. Geese eat grass. Cows and sheep and goats eat grass. Chickens eat grass too. But that's not the reason the chickens are out in the pasture. They're chasing insects. The horses stir up insects with their big feet. Chickens love insects. The mother duck is out on the pond. She is teaching her ducklings to swim. Someone else is out today too. The good gray cat is teaching her kittens to hunt. That bird is safe on his branch, but those squirrels better watch out. Cats don't eat grass or insects. In June, there are enough insects to go around. The fields are hopping with insects, grasshoppers and leafhoppers and tree hoppers. There are plenty of flies around in June. Dragonflies and mayflies and blue flies and butterflies. In June, there are enough horseflies to go around and around. In summer, the fields are full of flowers. Goats and sheep like flowers. Bees like flowers. Everyone likes flowers. The flowers are buzzing with bees. Bumblebees and honeybees and busy bees. Flowers like bees. They need them. In summer, the grass is hopping with fleas. No one likes fleas. They bite. July comes after June. It's hard to sleep on a night in July if the moon is full and shining and the summer stars are out. There are so many sounds to listen to. Frogs croak, crickets chirp, an owl is hooting to another owl. The old people on the porch are chatting in low voices about old times. A cow lows now and then. You can hear the steady clank of the conveyor carrying the sweet-scented hay to the loft in the barn. You can hear the quiet laughter of men as they work. You can hear a mother goose hissing softly, warning strangers from her nest in the shed. Sometimes, if everything is silent for a moment, you can hear the horses eating grass. August is the last summer month. The sky is blue, the sun shines. The late summer is a drowsy time of year. The days are hot and lazy. The sun shines and shines. The cows doze away the noonday. The sheep graze and graze all day. The lambs are growing by the minute. The flowers are growing too. Flowers need hours of attention in August heat. The vegetables need attention too. Someone is stealing lettuce. What good is a watchdog if the rabbits are out stealing lettuce? Almost asleep in a puddle of dust, a dog will still wag his tail as you walk by. The geese are quieter in August. All the noisy nesting is over for a while. The pig has tipped over her pail. Now she has a cool mud puddle to sleep in. You know it is hot when that old cat comes out for a breath of air. Then, sometimes quite suddenly, a fresh wind blows and the summer is over. The days are shorter. September is here. Everyone begins to wake up after the heat of summer. The evenings are pleasant in September and the horses are lively. They are brought in from the field to be shod. The horses aren't afraid of the blacksmith. They are used to him. They don't mind having their shoes nailed on. It doesn't hurt. Now the days are cooler and a sense of change is in the air. September is the first month of autumn. Autumn is a fine time for riding, even if it's raining. Most animals don't mind raindrops, but the big bay horse is ticklish and doesn't want to leave his stall. Animals can be very temperamental. Animals, just as people do, sometimes have to take medicine. They have to take worm medicine, and they don't like it much. Some dogs will eat their pill if it's wrapped up in cheese and they can't smell it. Some dogs don't care what they eat, no matter how it smells. Geese never need worming. They never eat worms. They are lucky. Sheep will stand quietly to take their medicine if you get a good grip on them and hold their noses. Most cats will eat their medicine mixed up in their dinner, but there's always a scratchy one who must be wrapped in a towel to have her pill pushed down. While most animals will take their medicine without too much of an argument, there are some who won't. Some horses never make a fuss about pills. They don't taste so bad. Some horses are suspicious if pills are put in their grain. It's not the taste, it's the smell that worries them. It's not easy to hold a temperamental horse's nose, and you can't wrap a horse up in a towel. The vet has to be called, and he needs a helper to get the medicine down. Frightening as it is, it will all be forgotten in a moment. Animals don't hold grudges. October is a splendid month. The harvest is in. An early frost did away with all the insects. The hay is in the barn, the corn is in the crib. There's not much left to eat in the fields, and the animals stay closer to the barnyard. The chickens go to roost earlier, and not so many eggs are laid. October days are dry and bright, but still the wild birds are restless and begin to flock together. The children gather pumpkins. The squirrels gather their nuts, filling their own storehouses with food. Soon the leaves will all be gone. At any moment, the migrant birds will rise and start their journey south. November. There is a frost nearly every night now. The air smells of snow and winter. The first thin ice is forming on the farm pond. The woods around the farm echo the huntsman's horn. The hunting hounds bay. In November, before winter comes finally, a few of the animals leave the farm. Some are sold. The finest are borrowed by the neighbors for breeding. The north wind blows, the bare branches rattle. The forest is far from quiet in November before winter settles in. The wild geese honk as they pass by. The saw and the woodsmen are noisy too. A few ganders are sent along as gifts. Everyone likes ganders. You can't have too many ganders, except in the barn through winter. December is the first winter month. The ground is often covered with snow. The dark and cold and night falls early. Now is the time to be in the barn. There is hay and grain to eat. There are places to play or hide or dream. There are warm straw beds. December is the last month of the year. Now is the time to catch up on sleep. Everyone goes to bed earlier in the winter. An old barn owl is the only one awake to greet January of another year. No, here are the deer coming silently to the barnyard for a bit of salt and a little leftover hay. And the quiet fox is making certain the chickens are safe in bed this New Year's Eve. That's the end of the year at Maple Hill Farm. I hope you got an idea of what it's like to be on a farm all year long. We're going to change books now, but it has to do a lot with farming and gardening and growing up, but in an older time. This one is called The Wheat Doll. It's by Allison Randall and illustrated by Bill Farnsworth. It takes place out west. It was hot in the valley. Mary Ann wiped her forehead and grabbed the carrot top again, but the fat carrot bottom still refused to budge from the ground. "This is going to take forever, Betty," Mary Ann sighed. Betty didn't answer. She never did. The only sound she ever made was swish, shh of her wheat-filled body. But Mary Ann knew the doll was listening. "Sorry, Betty, I need more room for the carrots," Mary Ann said, and she pulled the doll from her apron pocket and set her on a stump near the garden. Betty sat up straight and still. Her embroidery eyes never blinked, but Mary Ann knew she was paying attention. Betty watched as Mary Ann made her way up the row of carrots, tugging them out one by one. Finally, when Mary Ann's pockets were full, she gathered her apron tightly and headed for the root cellar. She didn't notice the black clouds spilling over the mountains or the air growing heavy. As Mary Ann emptied the carrots into the cool dark of the cellar, her mama called her into the cabin. "Mary Ann, hurry! Come help me with these cracks." She handed her daughter a bundle of rags. "But Mama," Mary Ann began, remembering Betty on the stump, No buts, her mama said firmly. There's a storm brewing. Hastily, Marianne tore the rags into small pieces. She stuffed them between the logs of her family's cabin. Wherever a bit of sky peeked through, with luck, the rags would keep out the dust and the damp of the storm. A strong gale of wind whooshed across the valley. It tore through the garden and ripped at the cornstalks. It knocked poor Betty, the doll, straight off the stump and tumbled her head over heels down the hill. She came to rest in a rocky hole at the bottom. Back in the cabin, Marianne finished stuffing the cracks, but before she could race to the garden, Papa blew through the door with another gust of wind. Behind him, the day had turned dark as night. Storm's a bad one, he said. Oh no, Marianne cried. Betty's out in the garden. Well, you can't go look for her now, Papa said. I have to, Marianne insisted. But Mama's thin, strong arms held her back. You'll do no such thing, she said. Outside, the pounding rain soaked Betty's body. The wheat inside her began to swell. Suddenly, a gush of mud broke loose from the hill and poured over Marianne's doll. She lay trapped under a gooey blanket, hidden from sight. The storm seemed to last forever. As soon as it had passed, Marianne raced out the door. The garden looked as if a giant broom had swept through it. Marianne rushed to the stump where she had left Betty. Her best friend was gone. Marianne searched everywhere, behind the stump, under the cornstalks, and down the hill. Betty, she called frantically again and again. Where are you? Up and down the rows Marianne went, calling and hunting, the garden blurred by her tears. Almost before she knew it, night began to fall. She couldn't find Betty anywhere. A lantern bobbed toward Marianne. Her papa stepped through the dark and wrapped her in his broad, warm arms. Time to come in, he said. The days and months passed, but Marianne never gave up looking for Betty. The winter seemed very long without her best friend. She missed the swoosh, shush of her doll's wheat body, and her apron pocket felt as empty as her heart. There were chores to do, but now there was no Betty to sit and watch while she dipped candles or braided rags into rugs. When Mary Ann worked on her embroidery, it reminded her of Betty's satin-stitch eyes, chain-stitched mouth, and lazy-daisy ears. When she walked to the schoolhouse listening to the other girls chatter, it reminded her of the one friend she could always trust to keep her secrets. At last, the long winter gave way to spring. Mary Ann took a basket and headed to the garden plot. It was planting season. Time to sprinkle the tiny carrot seeds into their rows. She wished Betty could be there to watch the feathery greens poke through the brown earth. Mary Ann tried hard not to think about Betty. She stood on the stump and breathed in the fresh spring air. That's when she saw something green and spiky growing in the mud at the bottom of the hill. She hopped off the stump and ran down the slope to see. A small patch of tender shoots had sprouted in the mud. The patch had a funny shape. It had arms and legs and a head. Could it be? Mary Ann ran her fingers across the tender grass. Betty, she whispered, is that you? The thin blades seemed to sigh at her touch, and Mary Ann knew that Betty was listening. All summer long, Mary Ann tended the patch of wheat until the green shoots grew tall and turned to gold. Then she cut the stalks and harvested the kernels of grain. Then she set to work sewing and stitching. She took special care with Betty's new eyes and ears. Mary Ann had lots to tell Betty, and she knew that her friend would be listening. This is a story that came from a true story of a woman who lived in the 1800s in the territory of Utah. Both stories today had something to do with the farm. I hope you have a chance sometime to grow a garden or have a farm. I'm Sharon Kimball, and I'm glad you joined us on Lunenburg Storytime.